Season's greeting from LUKE-N-SHAE'S place. Hi, I'm Luke, and this is Shay. We thought we'd jump on here this morning. Before we even start, I always sit side with we need to first. Go ahead, Shay. Say it.
Please like, share, and subscribe.
There you go. Like, share, and subscribe. We definitely need the subscribers. Today we're going to touch on a subject that we all have been battling with today and looking at parent-child relationships at this day and time. I think parenting has changed and the way we look at our parents. Because like I said, I always look at my mother and father as being able to tell me something because they always was my parent. So I don't think they step over too many boundaries with me. But, both of my parents now being deceased, but at any point in time, since they were parents, they're my parents, I would understand when, anything they do and how they did things. So they couldn't do anything to upset me. But a lot of people look at that differently today. A lot of people deal with it differently today. So we're going to touch on those subjects today between the parent and the child relationship today. Because we even heard some, even during the election, where parents was like, or children was like, well, you know what, I'm disowning my mother or father, or the parent was disowning the child because they didn't vote a certain way. Our relationships have grown, and I'm an older guy, so I look at it differently. The parent-child relationship is different for me. So we're going to touch on those things today. So how would you like to start that today, Shay?
Just piggybacking on what you said. Yeah, there's a lot of, with the holiday season, a lot of people are rushing to see their loved ones, their family members, and just thinking about the parents who will not have a visit from their child, whatever the situation may be. And everybody has different situations, but we're just going to look at those different things today and see, is it even worth it? Is it even worth it to not just shake that off and forgive, amongst the giving season? Why don't we actually give love? Because those are the parents. Some people don't have their biological parents. I was raised by my aunt and uncle.
Both of mine.
I was blessed to be raised by my aunt and uncle, but those who have their biological parents, this is the season of giving, and they chose to give life to you. So whatever it is it that hard to not actually go travel to see them, or just try to mend what's broken between you two?
Well, like I said, I know that can be difficult in today's time, but like I said, because I think the world has changed. We always honored our parents, and the Bible always told me to honor my mother and father in that same sense, because we looked at it in that aspect. I know my mother did a lot of things back then as a child. Well, it would have been embarrassing, but it didn't deter any of my love for her. There was nothing she could do, my mother or father could do, that would have me in a position to where I wouldn't still want to see them. And so today I hear more people saying, you know what, I wouldn't deal with my parents. And we got young people out here who haven't heard or seen from their children. And even in the seasons, they're not hearing from them. Where that would be totally, to me is, I don't want to say crazy, but that's totally wild that you can have a parent living today and you not want to see them, or you're not going to see them today. But we do have that. And relationships are easily severed today. And it's not seen the same way. They're not giving parents the same respect they've given parents all along, see? Mm-hmm. And that's one of our issues, because I think we have to get back to that. Because your parent is still your parents, regardless. No matter what age I am, my mother was still going to be my mother. Mm-hmm. And I have a sister now who said the same thing. She was like, I used to whoop his butt back then. I'll whoop his butt today, even though I don't think she could. But she always say that. But This is how that worked. And that I don't disrespect her. I love her to death, because she's a product. I'm a product of how she raised me and how the things that she did. Because I grew up having older siblings. So all of them was like parents to me. So, and I look at it from that aspect. And like I said, we dealing with things differently today. I had so many kids today disowning their parents. So I ain't going to see my mother. I wouldn't go see her. I wouldn't go see my father. I don't like what my father did. But we have to get over some of these things, and we have to get back to where we used to be, where parents were respected in a different way and also in a different light.
Yes. And to touch on that, and when I think about my situation, there was never a time in my life where I didn't long to see my biological parents. And I was blessed to have that at some points in my life, visiting my biological mother here and there. And my father, as a teenager, just off of the story that I told on Sunday, where I moved to a different place, I was able to see my biological father and get to know him a little bit. I was his little twin. So, I got to know him. But for my mother, when I did have my first son, I'll always carry that memory when I went to go see her and she actually got to hold my firstborn son. And that is my mother. Like, she birthed me. So even though she wasn't able to raise me, her and my father, I cherish that. And during the holidays, I think about that. I'm like, what would it have been like had I had my real mom and dad to raise me? How would that have been, as far as my life and, my bonding with people and different things like that.
Exactly.
But I still was blessed to have, a man and a woman, my aunt and uncle, where I could see what it's like to have that structure of a family. So, I feel like grace is not a thing that's given today. Little things that people feud about, and the next the family's like this. And in my family, I've experienced that with my aunt that raised me. And it's a shame because she's no longer here. And my uncle who raised me is no longer here. They both now passed away. And I think about how sad it must have been for her to not be able to see all her children at some points in her later part of her life. And, that's detrimental. When I think about times of me not being able to see my children, that's hard. That's hard.
Well, do you feel like people in general are being too sensitive about matters as opposed to back in the day where we wasn't as sensitive with these nature or these issues?
I believe so, Luke. I believe that now, today, with everything and the internet and a lot of that and people, it's the words. Like, oh my goodness, different things that's put out there. And sometimes I think people view things and they take that in. Sometimes you might even have situations where nothing might have happened. But hey, I must be feeling like this. Something must have happened to me when I was younger. Something must have happened here. And so then it's like we create these things and we put up these shields in our mind. And sometimes you're taking something out on someone who may not have anything to do with what you're going through. And I believe that we do have more access to, as soon as something happens, oh, let me look this up. I must be having this, oh, I must have, bonding issues because maybe I wasn't held. We start to create things, and not saying that some of that might not be true for certain people, but is it worth to just give up on your family altogether?
It's common ground to have victim mentality type personalities, which we all do. And well, I don't say we all do, but I think a lot of people share that. Where, it's like I said, parenting today is different than it was before. Our parents are different. But like I said, growing up old school, anybody know my mother's, I used to call her crazy because she didn't hold back or say anything that she wanted to say back then. And if you did something that was out of the way, well, she would let you know. And that's just how the nature of who she was. But at the same time, I respected her for it. I respected her for all that she done because she chose to give me life. That's the respect. They went out their way to make sure I had the things I needed to survive. So no, I'm always respect her in that aspect. And I think that's what's lost with young people today is it's almost it's an entitlement. Like you were supposed to do these things, as opposed to if by grace, by the love of her and your father, you're here. And nobody looks at it no more. It's like, okay, well, we did you a favor. And that mindset has always is kind of taken over the way society is structured today. It's like everybody looks at it like that. Even our relationship with God is the same way. Like people out there doing God a favor by going to church, by worshiping. You're not. You honor Him with these things, and that's the first sign of God in our life is our parents, because they the one to nourish us, cherish us, take care of us. So that builds that relationship, and that relationship moving forward is the relationship you're going to have with God. And a lot of times today, we don't have a strong structure of, I want to say, God in most of our children's life today. And that plays a part because they can't see it that way. Where we grew up knowing and understanding that this was how this was working. So yeah, we look at it differently. And today I think most young people do look at it differently. This is where the lack of respect comes from inside the homes today. And I'm not saying that, a lot of the stuff that went on with people, because we've seen a lot of things, and also with the discipline and all these things that goes on, I think that severed a lot of our relationships with our parents. Because the Bible does say a parent ain't supposed to rile the child, not supposed to, rile the child to get upset or those type of things. But I didn't look at it like that when they were guiding me to go into a direction I needed to go in when I couldn't. But, some kids might look at it today like, well, you know what, you're pushing me and I don't like that. And so now I'm looking at it like you're overbearing as a parent. So I would like for you to pull up that list of things that you sent me, and I would like to discuss those as well.
Okay. Yeah. And just to touch on that, when you say the things that a parent's, the role of a parent, what the Bible says. Also, we show love as parents by, sparing the rod. Because if there's no discipline, are you really loving your child? Because if you're going to be a friend to that child, how is that child going to go? How are they going to respect you if they feel like they're on the same level as you? So, and who are they going to respect out there outside of the home? So there's a difference, though, between sparing the rod and actually taking that too far. Yeah. Like you said, we're not supposed to go too far with those things, but you are supposed to show that you're the parent and have that respect. And that should go a long way when you become an adult. Now, love on your parents some. Love on your parents some, and whatever happened to forgiveness, where you want others to forgive you.
Well, how can you forgive if you never had that relationship with God or any type of relationship with with the higher being of just saying, okay, this is why I forgive. See, so that's key to today why we have the things that we have, because we're built with the mindset again that we are selfish in our own way. Because the Bible said in the last days we will become lovers of self. And so that's what we got today. If it doesn't fit my narrative, if it doesn't make me feel good, well, I'm going to have an issue with it. Where I grew up at a time where it wasn't necessarily about my happiness. It was about what's best for me as opposed to my happiness or what was best for us. It was things I would want and I couldn't get. And I was upset with my mother or father because I couldn't get them, but as I got older, I truly understand why they didn't do it. It was an imperative to understand I couldn't get everything, I didn't want to have that mindset that I should be able to get everything.
Everything is not for you, and that's how they. Everything's not good for you, and just because it glitters doesn't mean it's gold. And we didn't realize it then, but they had our best interests at heart. As far as protecting us and helping us grow. So.
That's the job of your parents.
So this is the article. Actually, my husband sent me, and I just wanted to share it because there was some good things where this article is showing. It's 8 behaviors. So it says, if you want to feel more loved by your children as you get older, say goodbye to these 8 behaviors. So we'll touch on the different behaviors. The first one is dictating instead of discussing. Dictating instead of discussing.
See, I can understand that one. That is a good one. because I know as a parent, as a grown person myself today, I would, and they would rather you have a discussion with your child. But I grew up where your parents were still your parents, so they didn't dictate, but they would still talk to you to the level of being a mother or father as opposed to the friend. So no, I understand where that's coming from, and I do that sometimes with my own son, but I find myself doing it because I'm still his father. I think in order to really understand this list, you have to be a child, and I started as a child, and then being a father. So I look at it from two sides. I still talk to my sons like I'm a father. I don't talk to him like I'm his friend. If it's a situation, I might go to him and be like, "Hey, bro, you need to get this together. We don't do stuff like in this order, or we don't do it that way." Mm-hmm. And that might be seen as me dictating, as opposed to sitting down and having a discussion with a friend. So yeah, I can see that too, but I can understand that as well.
Of having discussions, yeah, because it's saying that your grown-up children are adults themselves. They have their own experiences and insight. So yeah, I can understand wanting your child. Okay, they have to know there's a difference between being a child at home and being an adult. Mm-hmm. And when you're an adult, there should be a difference in how I come to you. And, I can give advice. If you're calling me and give me advice, sometimes they might just be calling to have an ear.
Yeah.
I am sometimes as a parent quick to, if I hear the situation first, I'm ready to spring into action to give advice. And it could be a call for, you're telling me what happened, and you might be following that with how you address that situation. Mm-hmm. But I'm so quick to give advice because me being mom,
Yeah, that's the nature
so that, where it's like, okay, mom, I just wanted you to hear what happened. Okay. And then I take a step back. Okay, so tell me how you handled that. So then I'm either going to give my input at the end. So I'm learning to listen. And if there's nothing to follow, if you're asking me for advice, I'll offer that up. So that's the first one. So the second one is failing to listen. And I just touched on that a little bit.
You hit that on the head right there.
Failing to listen.
Because as a parent, as a child, I understood that, they didn't, and they always listened to me. They didn't do what I want them to do, but they always listened. As a parent, I listen, but I'm listening still in the mindset of a parent. And so, yeah, especially as us men, we rather fix things. So we listen with the mindset of fixing whatever situation you bring to us. And so at the same time, I think that's an issue because sometimes parents don't see, in a sense, as a child get older and making their decisions, we don't always see eye to eye in those things. So we might look at these two things differently at the same time. But I do understand that right there where you feel like the person is not listening, where the person is listening. The parent might be listening in the sense of fixing, mm-hmm. where I'm talking as a youngster or as a child talking to my parent. I'm telling them about my decision and why I made it that way. And they might well look at it and say, well, you know what? I probably went this way. I would have went, I probably would have took a right here instead of going left. Mm-hmm. That's understood. I can understand that as well. But that's, like I said, I have to set boundaries as a child or as a grown-up child, saying, okay, well, I'm still make my decisions, but I'm going to listen to what my mother or father say, but I'm still, at the end of the day, I'm a parent now too, so I have to operate as a parent as well in making my decision. So I can understand that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
That whole listening to respond instead of actually listening for understanding,
yep.
And actually being an ear. That's hard. That listening to respond. And like I said, I'm working with that, not just with my kids, but sometimes in everyday life, just having conversation.
Yeah.
I'm listening, but am I really listening if I'm already thinking of what I'm going to say? So that whole thing. And this is a big one here. The third one is holding on to the past.
That's a tough one. That is
holding on to the past. And yeah, that is tough because how is there growth? There's no growth. And I have to say that, yeah, that's something that wouldn't be a good thing if I did something 15 years before. Now, granted, if it's something that I continue to call my parents and keep having the same. So I can see where sometimes, hey, I just want to remind you, this is what happened back here when you did the same thing. But if you're just bringing up my past just to, I don't know, put me down, hey, you sucked here and then you sucked back here in 19, and then now that starts to be like, okay, when are we going to grow from that?
I want to look at it at that aspect. I would look at it for myself as having played football, and coaches would constantly remind you of your mistakes, but the mistakes they reminded you of was to make you better. It wasn't always meant to, okay, I'm trying to put you down. I'm trying to remind you, okay, well, you remember what happened last time. Like my mother used to use that phrase, a hard head makes a soft butt, but at the same time, because we tend to do things and they're going to remind you of those things so that you won't make that same mistake again. Remember, you did this before. Now, if it did in that manner, as opposed to someone doing it like, we look at it from a relationship standpoint, where somebody constantly bring up your past, well, you know what, you did this and this and this.
Yes.
If it's did in that way, where I'm nitpicking
yes.
with it, that's entirely different. But my mother and father always reminded me of the foolish things I'd done, just to keep me grounded in the focus on the direction I need to go in. They've seen me going into that situation or anything near that type situation, they would then say, hey, you remember last time you went this way, so you need to keep your head focused this time and go, which would the best way at that point in time. So yeah, I can understand that too. And yeah, I don't think, like I say, I don't know too many parents. I'm not gonna say none parents, but I don't know too many parents that would really put you out there, okay, put you down by your decision making. But they want you to see that the growth of your maturity. I might have made this decision at 16. At 21, 22, I'm not going to make that decision. At 40, I'm definitely not making that decision.
Yeah, and that's, like you said, the ones that are nitpicking. So that's a problem. So if your child is now in their 40s or 50s and you're bringing up something from when they were 16, and it's like, okay, that could be a reason that would, because if the child, now they're grown, and if I know I'm going to go to my parents' house and I have to hear about, something that happened 30 years ago, constantly, that's going to make me feel defeated as I'm leaving the house. I don't want to feel
the same thing over. See,
but if they're not doing it today, none of those things that they're doing today.
Let's say they did this at 19. They went out and they made the mistake at 19. And then let's say at 40, they're making that same mistake. See? Well, now that's where the problem might come in too. I'll look at it differently. If you're still doing the same things that you did, my father used to use this little phrase.
Yeah.
He would say that it's a man at 60 still going to the clubs is different from the man at 19. He said, now, that's the sign of maturity, that at 19, I didn't know no better. But at 40, I know better. So at this point in time, he said that's equivalent to a grown man playing with little kid toys.
Yeah.
And today, you should be put them toys away. You shouldn't be playing with the squeezy toys and the little toys that make the crazy noise when you squeeze them with the air. You shouldn't be playing with those today. You should be a grown man today. And so you put that stuff away and you elevate yourself to the next level of adulthood. You don't.
When I was a child, I thought
you
of
thought
a child.
like a child, act like a child.
Yes, and when I became grown, I
put
put away childish thinking. Yes,
yeah. And that's what we're at today. And
so that's a big one. But yeah, you do have, and it's sad, but you do, and I know people who, in life where this might have been a thing, where I don't know why, but sometimes you do have parents that will throw everything you've ever done, and it's like, okay, we've moved on from that. By the grace of God, I didn't have that. My parents didn't do that. They didn't do that. Anytime I went to visit them and spend time with them, they never sat me down and said, hey, remember? If anything, they were bringing up good memories of, it's the concerts you sang at school or the plays. It was nice things. There was never, remember you spilled the soup and then it got on the carpet. Nothing like that. It was never something that made me feel like, okay, never brought up the situation that we just talked about. I talked about on Sunday. Oh, remember when you got in that truck? I've never had to hear that again in my life. I never, maybe in my life I got in the truck different ways, but they never said, hey, that happened here. So, but no, it was never something where I felt defeated leaving my parents' house. Okay. And let's see, let's go on to the next one. 4, overstepping boundaries.
Well, yeah, I can see that one as well. I mean, but that's kind of a parent thing to overstep boundaries. That's kind of crazy because parents, well, I know my parents. I don't know about anybody else's parents. I know my parents would overstep boundaries. But in respectfulness of it all, I still made the final decision on all the things that happened in my life once I took on adulthood. That's key. So, yeah, they can, I mean, they can say whatever they want to say in that issue. And I'm going to respect what they say as their son. But at the same time, at the end of the day, me being a father today, I'm going to still do what's best for me and my family at that time. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to fight or bicker with them. I mean, they're entitled to their opinion. They're entitled to what they want to say. And we will discuss that. And if they got if that decision seems better than mine, I don't have a problem with going in that direction.
Yeah.
But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's still my final say in my decision in my life. Because as a grown man, now as a child, that's entirely different. When I'm still living in their house, I had to respect them from living in their house. And so they had all say in that household. Like my mother didn't believe in having locked doors. You couldn't lock no doors in her house unless you were paying rent. If you weren't paying rent, you didn't have no locked doors in her house. That's just how that worked. But yeah, I can understand that right there. I can definitely gravitate to understand that being, that decision making right there. Yeah, you got to do that. But I think some people might look at it differently.
Yeah, and usually when I think of that, I think of possibly the direction of, okay, now the child is grown and they have their own spouse and they have children, and maybe the overstepping boundaries could come with, let her wear this for the kids, and where the grandparents now it's almost like they want to have a say, as they should have input with their grandchildren, but sometimes it gets overbearing with it. They're doing too much. So that could lead to the overstepping the boundaries. Oh, you should put her in this one in Girl Scout. Oh, you should do this. And it's like, okay, suggestions are great, but it's just sometimes it comes off as, okay, now you raised me. This is now my thing. I have to raise my children. So, so that could be a big issue.
This link will be found in the description. So if you would like to look at this list, it is an interesting list. It will be found in the description.
Yes. So let's see here. 5, withholding affection. Withholding affection.
Well, I think that's different. Older people didn't really show. Well, older parents didn't really say. But I know when I get off the phone with any of my kids, I say, I love you. But like I said, I was never the person that didn't hug them when I seen them. So yeah, it's different. I think we learn from our parents to grow in a different way. I think back then it was seen and normal for a parent not to really show that type of stuff. But today I can't say that will be an issue because I see a lot of parents today who, will definitely tell their children they love them. Don't have a problem giving them a hug in that manner. So no, I could see that as being a problem if you didn't get it.
If you didn't get it,
but if I didn't get it today, I knew in my heart of heart my parents loved me, even if they didn't say it, and I didn't always get it. But I really don't think it affected me. But to somebody else, it might say it affected them. But I don't think it really affected me because my mother always taught me that love is something shown, it's a verb. So the things that they done as opposed to things that's being said. I know that she went out of her way to make sure I had the things that I had to do to survive and succeed. So yeah, I look at that as love. But I know I can understand where somebody today might not see that same thing and look at it differently. I can definitely understand that as well.
So for myself, can speak on that. Again, going back to the story I told Sunday and how my father embraced me when he did when I came out of the room in that story. And if you haven't seen that story, I did do a story it was Sunday's story with Shay, if you want to check that out. However, that hug meant so much to me because in my childhood, I could remember my grandmother coming and visiting, and I would get hugs and kisses from my grandmother. But my parents, as my aunt and uncle, I really can't remember kisses and hugs from them. I don't remember when I was little. Maybe when I got older, that wasn't a thing. But they showed love other ways. They had other ways, like just from their ways and actions. I know that they loved me. They provided for me. But I never got those. And if I went to my friend's house, I would see that. I would see little hugs and kisses and things. I wanted that. Okay. I'm not saying I didn't want that, because on TV, we could be watching a family movie. That's something that my family did. We would watch TV together and movies and stuff together. And in the movies, you would see that happening where, they kiss the little girl and they, the mom, she runs in the kitchen and kisses her. And then I said, well, maybe it was me. Maybe I should have just took advantage of that and gave hugs or, as a kid. But no, I didn't have that. But as an adult, my parents gave me hugs and kisses. Like when I was a kid, I was the niece. When I was their niece. Like whenever we had company come over, oh, this is our niece Shantae, she's 10 or she's this but when I became an adult, they would introduce me as their daughter. So those things in the younger years, I believe 100% if that was a thing when I was younger, I would have had a sense of belonging.
Okay.
A sense of belonging where I didn't feel like the cousin or the niece all the way up into when I left at 17, But then as an adult, when we had family functions, it would be, oh, there's our oldest daughter, there's our other daughter, there's Shantae, And just hearing my parents said that, I loved it. I said, wow, this is great.
I imagine that did feel good.
It felt great. But the time that I believe in my heart that I really needed it was when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a direction. And I had, I would see some of my friends get picked up by their parents from school and everything. And they had their mom and dad. They held their hand and, oh, how was your day? And a big kiss on the cheek, And I wanted to know what that was like as a little girl. And that might, not to go off the topic, that might have been the affection I was seeking, not in the right way. When I got to a certain age, I was out there looking for that kind of a sense of belonging. But we'll touch on that another time. But affection is important. I give it to my children. I don't, even the ones that are grown, when they see me, you're going to get a big hug and a kiss. When we talk on the phone, the same thing. We don't get off of a call without saying, I love you.
That's important.
And sometimes if I say it or, if the call ends, my kids will call me back. Mom, did you hear me say I love you back? And I'm like, yes, I heard you. Okay. They make sure that that's something that's
cool.
Yeah. Yep. And for my two at home, they don't like it because they're, older now. So, but sometimes just walking through the house, I'll grab them and I'll be like, Mommy loves you. They're like, Mom.
I think that's different for boys. Like I said,
yes.
I could have lived without it. It didn't affect me that I didn't get it, but I looked at that because of me being more of a man. So I imagine as a young girl, that's more important because women are more emotional. We're not built to have all the emotion. My father was always a hardy working man, so he was always like, okay, we was tough. It was about being the toughest guy. He didn't get his nails manicured. He was rough with man hands, and that's what we were used to. So yeah, I can understand that as well. Most boys don't necessarily need it, I want to say, but now I guess you could give it, but as a man, as a young boy, I didn't see it. I don't think I missed anything by not having it. I should say that. That's just me.
I think my boys received it more when they were little. They would run to me and things. Now it's like I see them just passing through. I'm like, hey, give me a hug. They're like, hey, Mom. And it's a little side hug,
Yeah, I like that. what's all that all about?
Yeah.
Like you want to hug people all of a sudden.
Yeah, so, but that's, and because I didn't have that, I tried to give it to my kids. Maybe I overdid it, but at least they know they cannot really make this comment that they didn't have any kind of affection that was shown to them.
Well, let's run through that list.
Okay, and number 6 is comparing them to others.
Okay. I don't think I was compared to others. I don't see where I was compared to others, but I can understand that being a problem if that is happening. If you're being compared to other people, I can see where that could be an issue. But I don't see it as being a strong enough issue to not talk to them or to go see them in the hours of, because like I said, it's one thing to be compared to another child. And I always compared myself and my brother. I had my brother was very fast, and I wasn't half as fast as he was. But I was always in competition with him because I wanted to beat him. But I was never compared to him in any instance or any of my brothers. I mean, everybody did something different, and what they did different, they did the best they were at whatever it was. And we all had different tools and different things that we done that we would look at each other different. But no, I never got that. But I could imagine as a parent putting a child in that position where you're comparing them, and that could be. I could see that as being a problem. That would be a problem if that's happening. So yeah, I could understand that being a real issue.
I could see the wedge that can be, from that. But I can't say that my parents did that. And me being the youngest in the household of 12 children that they raised, it wasn't this, like everybody had their different gifts and talents that they had. So, and I had mine, it was never, oh, why aren't you like your sister? Or why can't you be more like, no, my sister might be in a book and I might be playing Barbie, that's just, and then sometimes she would play Barbie with me or however. It was never, okay, why don't you, it was never that where I felt like I had to measure up like my siblings. It was like, okay, you have your thing and you have your gift. You like to sing, you have poetry, and my sister, she artsy, she could draw, and then I have another sister, she was good in basketball. Everybody had their thing. Yeah. So I'm grateful that I never had to be compared to my other siblings. Okay, so 7, overreacting to their mistakes.
That's kind of like, well,
I would say it sounds like one we had earlier, bringing up the mistakes. But I guess overreacting would be like a little dramatic with it.
Well, that's fun if you made a mistake recently and then they went in on that aspect of it. But I can't, as a parent, I can't think of a time I overreacted on a situation. Not saying I'm the perfect parent either, but at the same time, I have never seen it where you overreacted to a mistake or anything that was done. I can imagine it's according to what the mistake was, and how the mistake affected you or your family at that time, finances and different decisions you might have made here which will impact you later or future endeavors or that type of stuff. Yeah, I can understand, but at the same time, like I said, it's according to the situation. I don't know. Like I said, it will be the situation at hand that, what type of mistake you made in that sense. Because we can make some crazy decisions.
And the overreacting part, true. The overreacting, I guess, if, instead of giving solutions to it or say mom and dad are having an issue with each other and the son does something and the mom now says, oh, you're acting just like your father, like something where now you're feeling like, okay, instead of helping a solution, or now you forgot about the problem and now family comes over for the holidays and now let me tell you what he did, now you're overreacting, and now he has other relationships that could be severed if people look at him and he starts to feel like a failure. So sometimes that could be a thing, and it could lead, into a wedge in adult years where now, why do I want to go spend the holidays with my parents because she's going to overreact, or he's going to overreact for something that might have happened even in recent years. So
Yeah, I can understand that.
yeah, so I mean, but even still, something like that, we have to, have a talk, sit down, say, hey, I just want you to know, hey, I'm 47 right now, and I just want you to see me as an adult, and have that conversation. But do that before you choose to just cut your parents and your family off. There has to be grace given. In some situations are different, but
Yeah, that's not a respect ending.
yeah, that's not an end all be all, like I'll never talk to you again kind of thing. So
So I can see that happening. I can see, well, that shouldn't be, that would be the thing. Well, you know what, I ain't never speaking to you again. Because you really went in on me on that bad decision I made.
Yes.
I can't talk to you no more. After this is it.
Yeah, like, you know what, let me just take this last plate of this meal. Thank you, Mom, but this is it. I'm not gonna ever see you again.
Yeah.
Take these good leftovers out of state with me, but that's it, no more. No, I can't see that being a thing. The last one, 8, is forgetting to appreciate them. Forgetting to appreciate them.
Once again, yeah, that's a touchy subject. I'm gonna let you go ahead and handle that one first right there. That is different.
Okay, so I'm just because I've always appreciated my parents. I didn't look for them to appreciate me in my adult years, but however, I can see where that could be a thing. So if your child is, because I get it, people get busy. Even in your older years, you're busy, and you might be busy with other grandchildren and other things going on. And you might have had a child that might have gone above and beyond to come out of their way. You might have a child that just comes over every Friday or every other Friday and wants to cut grass for you or do something for you. And sometimes you might just feel it's expected. You feel entitled. Oh, he comes and cuts the grass. But do you appreciate it? Do you tell your child? I think it's more verbal. Let them know that you appreciate what they're doing. Or even, I guess it's one of those things, if you do have a child and they're doing great and they're successful and their family's great, maybe they just want to hear that phone call to say, I'm proud of you. I appreciate you, even though we helped mold you into that person. I really, this is a tough one because I'm like,
because that's the whole thing. It's built off of a selfish nature.
Feelings.
Again,
somebody's feelings, like, okay, feeling appreciated as a child.
Okay. They brought you to this world, and you're saying, well, I need for them to appreciate me. And I understand. I got all accolades and all the things that came along when I did certain things, when I got good grades, and if you graduated from college, those type of things. Yeah, you got all kind of accolades and things being said because they proud parents. So maybe I don't truly understand what appreciation they're talking about.
Well, when it talks about it, and just because we're not reading. So let's see what they're saying. I'll read a little snippet of it so we can see so we can be pointed in a direction. So forgetting to appreciate them. In the hustle and bustle of life, we often forget to express our appreciation. Our children, like all of us, need to feel valued and appreciated. A simple thank you for their help, acknowledging their kind gestures, or expressing pride in their achievements can go a long way in making them feel loved. I'm not telling you to shower them with praises all the time. It's enough to genuinely recognize that their efforts and their contributions have been helpful. Mm-hmm. It says this simple act can create a deeper bond between you and your children. And when you feel appreciated, they'll naturally show more love towards you. So if you want to feel loved by your children as you get older, don't forget to appreciate them. So I'm assuming maybe like, okay, mom's got doctor's appointments on Tuesday, and after work I'm taking her to the doctor. So, just thank you. Just a thank you. I don't think they're saying you have to go overboard, but just don't get dropped off and just go into your house and, say, hey, you know what? Thank you for taking time out of your schedule. Well, just to say.
Well, in my mother's last years, I took care of my mother. So having done that, having taken care of her, she didn't really, I don't think, went out her way to this or that, but at the same time, that's my mother, and I felt like again, it's almost like it come full circle. At one point in time, I couldn't help myself, and she took care of me, and I probably wasn't appreciated that neither. You know, I was that's what you're supposed to do, but at the same time, I looked at it like I said, I took care of her in her last days. I was, and you know, because after losing her legs to diabetes, I was her all in all after that. So again, I don't look at it in that way. I just look at it like it's an exchange of powers. That we went from this to this. One point in time, she was taking care of me. I owe it to her to take care of her. I don't know if she was gonna, if she would appreciate it. I imagine she was, because she always called me. She always called me to go get things for her. But by the same token, that in itself, it was an exchange of powers. It was now me doing the taking care of her.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I don't look at it like she didn't appreciate it. But at the same time, today, right now, having in this holiday season, not having a parent, I would love to have her here to do something for her today.
Yes.
I would love it. If I could get that to do something for her today,
oh my
it would
goodness,
be
how
special
beautiful.
to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that I miss most is you get to a point. She used to tell me that. She's like, oh, one day you're going to get to a day you're going to wish you had me here to go get a glass of water or bring her something to drink in that manner. Yeah, I could. Yeah, I'm the wrong person to ask that question because I felt like my mother and father was my all. So, yeah.
And I hear that and I feel that, coming from a person, for me, I would love to be at a table with my parents that raised me, my aunt and uncle, and my biological parents. And listen, we don't have to say nothing, just want to go around and give them a big hug and a kiss and just tell them that I love them, And when I say that for this reason. What about those moments for those who are out here, not just during the holiday season, but one day it's going to be too late to forgive. One day it's going to be too late to say, I'm sorry, or I love you, or I forgive you. Don't let it be too late, because you just never know. And it's not that bad. And again, everybody's situation is different. I don't know everyone's situation, but if we just sit and reflect and think about, is it really that bad? Some of you that are viewing might, if you can relate to this topic, some of you might know someone who's going through this, and it's really not.
It's about,
because once you're gone, you're gone. There's no.
And some people have a tough time being a bigger person. I think that's one of the things. Empathy, sympathy is some of the things we lack in society today. Being a bigger person is also lacking.
It matters.
Stepping up and just saying, okay, I'm going to let bygones be bygones.
Yes.
I'm bigger than this, and I'm going to move into this right here. And so that's something that we have to also understand. And we have to reflect on those things as well.
Yeah, sometimes you have to be the bigger person, because sometimes people are set in their ways, especially if we're talking about maybe someone that might be older. They might be set in their ways. Sometimes you just have to show up and show up and say, you know what, Mom, Dad, I love you. Just, I forgive you, or whatever the case might be. It might have been a little misunderstanding. Sometimes it might have been nothing at all, and they're assuming this, and you're assuming that. And if you talked about it, be like, you'll end up laughing like, wow, I was mad for all these years for nothing. What are we even arguing about?
Yeah,
what are we even arguing about?
The parent in that situation, so they're feeling like the parent, and well, they are parents. My mother used to tell me that all the time, and I hated it. Oh, you're going to always be my baby. No, I'm not your baby. But that's just the way your parents felt about you. You're their child. They love you in that way. And me being a parent now, I don't call my son my baby. I should do that just to make him mad.
I do. I tell my children they'll always be.
But that's neither here nor there. But we have to do that. But we're going to wrap this up. It was a very interesting discussion. I think we touched on a lot of bases. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope that it was beneficial to you in some type of way. We want you to like, subscribe, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and reach out to someone who might need to hear this morning, or at this in this time of giving. So yeah, we really enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to doing a follow-up, and we're looking for your comments more importantly. We would love for you to comment, tell us what you think, how you feel about it at that point in time. It will be interesting. Anything you'd like to part with, Shay?
Just in the season of giving, choose to give love.
That's right.
However that looks, choose to give love.
Exactly.
And it doesn't just have to be with your parents. That one relative that sister, that brother, just choose to give love. Because there's going to be a time when it's too late to forgive. So why not forgive now?
And learn to be the bigger person.
Yes.
And just let bygones be bygones. So we're going to wrap this up. We'll see you in the next video. Again, like, subscribe, and share. We definitely need for you to do those things. And we'll talk to you again.
Thank you for joining Luke and Shae's Place.